Hello and welcome to Section 7, Part 3. In this part, we're going to be fixing some multiplayer, just bugs that have come up, and so this is going to be a bit all over the place in what plugin we're working in, but we're just going to solve some of the common problems that people have had when they've been working on the series. So the first one I just want to address is the one we had in the last video, which is the perception system. Now, if anyone can offer any light on this, I'd be interested to know, because I've had perception systems working before fine with this setup, but for whatever reason, I cannot get it to work like this in the at the moment. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, or but if anyone does know, hit me up in Discord, because it just seems odd to me. But oops, we don't need these last two lines, and we want to move. Well, technically, let's just copy all of this to the constructor. I can get rid of that. And let's just use the perception component. And we're going to change this to create default object, which is the constructor way of doing it. And we don't need an object for that. And then for these, we're just going to put in some sort of default value. It doesn't really matter. We're going to override it later when our data loads. Oh, is that a... It's float. That's fine. And then back here where we took it out from, just remove the constructor, the creation of the objects there. I think this is what's the problem. It's not liking creating it at runtime. So what we're going to do is create it in the constructor and then just update the data. So the only thing we'll need now is just to configure the sense. So we'll set the new settings from the data and configure the sense. And we can bring that back on. We'll bring the stimuli source back on. I'll just in the character, I'll just to make sure that this does come on, there's a activate to true. That should be right. I don't think we need that, but I think that's it for that. Let's just see if that fixes our perception. Alright, so if you press the quote key, I think it is called, or asterisk, no, not asterisk. It's next to the enter key anyway. You should get the AI debug menu and turn off, on the numpad, press 1 and 2 to turn off AI behavior tree, and just press 4. Oh, we're actually out of range. That's not going to help us, is it? Oh, probably could have just increased the ranging. Actually, we'll increase this to something huge, because then we'll know it's working. Alright, so it's definitely updating the site data, but we're not detecting entities. And it's not running queries. I don't think we would need to do this, but there is a function called set exception component. And all it does is set that parameter, so I don't know that it would do anything, but anyway. Oh, actually, did I have all these enabled? I think this makes a difference. Let's just build the live build. just get that update for the constructor. Oh, it's in the constructor, probably need to rebuild anyway, but yeah, it's working. It's detecting all those. Now the other thing we want to check is it detecting them as hostiles? Because I think we need to, because we moved our team interface to the entity component, I think we might need to override this attitude. We need to override this function, which is probably never getting hit. Entity components null. I don't know why that is null, but as an initialized, let's put it in here. And then we come to entities, and we need this entities, yes. Entities components, entity component. And then in here, so if we come to just go to this team attitudes and copy, copy the thing and override that here. And I'll just copy the rest of it, because it's pretty similar. And then this other agent, rather than just casting an actor, because we're not inheriting off the interface isn't on an actor now, it's on the component. So we're going to do the URTS component, find entity component from the other actor. There we go. So that should now get through the correct team comparison. So we'll just relaunch that. We're detecting, and now come back to our controller. We're making it to hostiles, so when we come to report hostiles here, all hostiles, and that's how many you can see at the moment. So that's good. That will do for now for perception. So the next fix I want to look at is on the client, the selection box color isn't being changed. And the reason for that is if you have a look in, not core, entities, player controller, in begin play, where we're basically setting this, we're setting this delegate to affect the team change, but it's occurring later on the client. So, but when it happens on the client, it's already set the team and fired all this stuff, so and it wasn't bound. So what we need to introduce is just like a team, like the team system has initiated flag, so we can sort of delay the execution of it, I guess. Number of ways you can do this, but so what we're going to do on the team interface here is we're just going to add some functionality. So we're going to put a default implementation of true, and then we can override that on the player state. And then if we come to our team's player state, and we can override those two. So we'll put a property down here. It needs to be replicated. And for this, we're going to send it to the server. So I haven't created this function yet, but And then we're just going to do the similar to this. It will be our initiated value 1. Now we just need it in our replicated. Put that there. Also set it here to false. So that's set up. And back on our player controller and begin play. I'll make this only on the server here. And then we need to check if it's the listen server client, basically. And then for the client, there's another function we can override here called on rep player state. And you can check local controller. This doesn't get called on the server, so don't need to check authority or anything like that. And because I think that's why the begin play was failing, because the player state hasn't replicated on the client yet. I forgot to mention that. And this is all the same. Alright, so that'll set initialized, but now we need to use this when we set the team. So when we set the team, we basically just need a delay for a little while until the client is ready. So now to use that variable that is initialized, so we need to go to where we're assigning teams. So we come down to teams, the team manager component. In here, we want to change a few things. So assign player to team. In here, we want to check firstly if the team ID is equal to that generic no team. And then what we're going to do is we're going to assign a default team. So I think we're making the teams. Yep, so we're creating the teams here. So that's the teams, and that's the default team here. So we create the team info. We want to here, because what we don't want is the generic team to be put into our teams array, and then we're randomly selecting like the spectator team. So we want to try and keep the team separate. So I'm going to check if it's that generic team. And if it's not, we'll do the normal process of adding it to teams. And then, but if it is, we're going to set a no team. We'll call it default team. So that's like our spectator. Sorry, it's not an array. It's just a pointer to a team. And then we'll add that to the replicated. Where's that replicated? Here it is. I'll move that to the top. We also need to set this to replicated, I think. That might help things. And then where were we? Yeah. And then default team. And then we want to replicate. So that sets our default team, and then back down where we were assigning here, we want to assign them to that team. So that keeps our little teams array here, only actual teams, not the generic team. Now, come back to here, and we want to assign players to teams. So in the assign players to teams, this will be the first time we come through to assign players. So we actually want to register for a listener for the players that join after this point. Just move this up. Make a difference. So now it's not really existing, it's connected. I'm going to create another function. And that's going to take the same stuff. So the index array. It's going to have one other thing. It's going to have it's just going to be an int. It's going to be called attempts. And we're going to give it a default value of, I don't know, 100. Doesn't really matter. If we don't define this number, it'll come through as 100. And then this is where we need to check if we've initialized. So if the player state is initialized, so that's our team. It's basically saying our player controller is ready to receive a team change. And then we can do this stuff here. And let's just do assign connected player. And we don't pass anything, that'll equal 100. So that'll be the first time it's called, right? It's going to make sense, I promise. And then if it's not initialized, then we want to check if we've got attempts left. So the attempts is just so we don't sit in an infinite loop. And then what we're going to do is call get world timer. And we're going to tell it to call this function on the next tick. And that's why we have to move it to its own function. And we just want to pass the same stuff through. So keep this. And we also want to pass the attempts through -1. What have I stuffed up? Okay. Can't pass that by reference. That's what that issue is, I think. Yep. And then we'll just put a log at the end, so if it does time out and we don't assign the team. So that'll then call itself up to 100 ticks until the team is initialized, and then it will call the assign player to team. Now we have the other function, connecting player to team. We don't want to add them here. We do want to generate the team's ID array, and instead of all this, we just do the assign connected player. And I thought that had to be constant. It does. Or it can be. Put it that way. So now back on our player controller, we shouldn't execute this on teams change until we've initialized and set this delegate. And therefore, the actual box selection widget, which is the whole purpose of these changes, will then be updated correctly. So let's prove our theory. So we've got a blue team here. And we've got a red team. Blue highlight. What the hell's going on there? What's up in there? Our next problem is, and the reason why we're getting that weird thing is I just did some debugging and the player's team isn't assigned by the time it's spawned and it's AI. So we need to apply the similar delay, or we need the system to wait until the teams are initialized before it starts spawning the entities. So if we come to our loadout manager and our final function here where we send it off to spawn, we can do the same thing. We have the entity data loaded, and then we have all the on-player loadout data loaded. So this is what we need to inject our attempts thing into. I didn't need to do that, that was wrong, sorry. Doesn't seem to want to use default, but anyway, that will do. Might be because it's come from delegate. Check player control as well, that's fine. And in here, oh, it's player state, isn't it? And we'll just get the generic type. And then we'll cast that to the team interface. Is initialized. Sorry, stop and has initialized. Then we can create our groups. Otherwise, I'll check if we've still got attempts left. And I might copy the other one from the Teams manager. Okay. Do a log that's the same as well. Now let's give that a go. There we go. That is good. So we'll leave this part here, and I'll see you in the next part. Thanks for watching.